And welcome back to another edition of the I Prefer the 80s and 90s Sports Podcast where I, Richard Harris, talk about why I prefer the sports of the 80s and 90s to the sports of today. The worst part of this time of year, between now and January 4th-ish, maybe January 7th, is accountability. And in accountability, I mean it's time to start to fire coaches, fire coaching staffs, firing coordinators, coaches going after new jobs, coaches getting new jobs, coaches losing their jobs right before the holiday season, or as we are in the holiday season or the post-holiday season. And it takes away from the bowls, takes away from the playoffs, it takes away from the remaining schedule of a season. Over the last couple of weeks, some big name coaches have been fired in college and in pro football. And whether they deserve to be fired or not, in my opinion, unless a coach does something really stupid during the regular season, he or she shouldn't lose their job until the end of the season. Let them finish the season out, see if something changes. Because sometimes, in fact, most times, especially in football, it's about matchups. If you have a schedule that is easy, you play in a conference that is easier than other ones, and you fail, okay, you should be fired. But if you're playing in a conference that has got some heavyweights, got difficult schedule outside of conference, sometimes you need to wait and see the development. Today, the Carolina Panthers fired Frank Reich. Frank Reich just got hired by the Carolina Panthers. And essentially, they feel that he is not the answer for the number one pick in the draft in Bryce Young. In my opinion, this firing is ruthless. This firing shows that the Carolina Panthers are clueless. And I'm going to say that again. This firing shows that a 1-10 team, Carolina Panthers, are clueless. And they're clueless not because that they're 1-10. They're clueless because of the moves they have made over the last 3 years. The last year and the year before, they got rid of Cam Newton. They brought in Sam Darnold. They brought in Baker Mayfield. They fired the coach. They fired the interim coach. And now they fired the new coach. To me, that is an organization that is in disarray. Now, the way you end disarray or disorganization is obvious. You have somebody in place that is steady, sturdy, and can get the job done. The Panthers play in, record-wise, the worst division in football. Atlanta, Tampa, New Orleans, Carolina. All four teams have losing records. Last year, the winner of the division had a losing record. Now, you say that is because of what? Well, last year, the quarterbacks in that division weren't bad. Tom Brady was still there. Carr was in Oakland, so they had Jameis was the quarterback. Jameis wasn't that bad. They had, like I said before, Sam Darnold and Baker Mayfield. And Atlanta decided to go with Marcus Mariota till he couldn't do it. Then they brought in Ritter. Now, it's not Murder's Row. But then if you go back and go, okay, well, who do they have to throw to? Tampa has receivers. Tampa was bad because they have running game. Atlanta has babies. They all are young. The Saints, a lot of receivers. Kamara, they just didn't have anybody to get the ball to them consistently. Whether it was Dalton, whether it was Jameis, whether it was Taysom Hill. And plus, they were also coming off of 20 years of Drew Brees, who was excellent. Sometimes you don't know how to put a team together. And so what you end up doing is hoping, praying, and wishing. Hoping and praying and wishing that your vision matches the vision of your new coach. And you're hoping, praying, and wishing that he can put together a team. And in that division, as bad as it is record-wise, it shouldn't be an issue. Before the season started, my Super Bowl prediction was the Saints and the Dolphins because I thought Derek Carr would be perfect in New Orleans with all those receivers that they have and Kamara. But Kamara missed the first 4 games or 3 games due to suspension. So they were behind the 8 ball. And they have not played at all well. I thought their defense, which was really good last year, would be good again this year. It hasn't happened. And then you look at their schedule, and it's not like they're playing the Eagles, which they might play, the Niners, who they might play, every week. They got 4 games this year against the AFC South that is just as bad as the NFC South. The difference is the AFC South has Trevor Lawrence, who is playing like an MVP candidate. Houston has a baby as a quarterback, and he's playing like the rookie of the year. Tennessee has Derrick Henry, and you never know. You don't do a good job stopping him, they'll beat you just with him. The Colts had a baby as their quarterback too, and he got hurt, so now they got Gardner Minshew, who is kind of young but knows how to play. Tennessee's playing a rookie quarterback, and they're competitive every week. So I don't like the firing of a coach with a new quarterback, with no receivers, with a running game that's not working. My blog last night, I went on and on and on about you can't blame these quarterbacks because if you're not protecting them, you can't throw from the back. And watching Bryce Young play this year, his offensive line got all these big guys, all these 300-pounders, all these guys who can block, who last year did the running block thing really well. I watched the game where Carolina had 2 running backs go over 100 yards. And this year, to be this bad, can't be the coach. Can't be the system, because Frank Reich was successful with his system. Didn't Frank Reich coach the Eagles to a Super Bowl victory over Tom Brady? So he knows how to coach. Yesterday and this weekend in football, it was unique because like 9, 10 games this weekend pitted black quarterback versus a white quarterback, which was pretty cool because we've gone into an era of football where color of quarterback doesn't matter. If you could play, you could play. But some teams don't know how to coach the black quarterback, don't know how to utilize all of his skills to maximize positive and winning results. And maybe that's the case with Frank Reich with Bryce Young. Because all the other coaches who have black quarterbacks are doing pretty well. Kansas City, Philadelphia, right off the top of my head, they played in the Super Bowl last year. Kyler Murray, he's just coming back from injury. He's going to need some games to get back into the flow. They looked like crap yesterday. Desmond Ridder, he's learning. Atlanta is better than Carolina right now, right? Russell in Denver. Cleveland's quarterbacks, all black, all three of them. Of course, Baltimore came out here and gave San Diego a spanking. Dak did the same thing to Washington on Thursday. I mean, there are teams that are getting it done with the black quarterback. But I'm hoping that Frank Reich gave Bryce Young everything he needed to learn to be successful. And Bryce Young didn't get it done. And the answer is he didn't. He didn't give him an offensive line to protect him. But then you look over in the college game. Coaches have been fired recently. Offensive and defensive coordinators are fired, and this is the time of the year where coaches are deciding where to go and what to do, how to go forward. Universities are deciding how to pay out people to get them out. Jimbo Fisher just broke the bank. $76 million payout. That's all everyone talks about. No one talks about anything else. I think I blogged about it a couple weeks ago. I'm like, what are you expecting? That's a heavyweight conference. If you thought Texas A&M belonged up there with the heavyweights and he didn't deliver, absolutely fire. But how are you going to compete with the big boys if you get rid of the high-profile coach? They're bringing back their defensive coordinator, who was at Duke, who improved Duke. And now you got Oklahoma and Texas joining the conference. So recruiting your own state is going to be hard. Don't you want a guy that, and maybe he's a guy who does the recruiting. Okay. But sometimes firing coaches just makes the problem worse. Because in their first year, they usually don't succeed unless they bring some people. Colorado fired their coach last year because they were horrible. They were 1-12. This year they're 4-10, 4-8. They improved by 3 games. But the school made millions off of Deion Sanders, so they'd say, okay, we lost a lot of games, but we got rich. And now they're holding their breath and hoping that he don't leave them. Because he proved that he could coach in Division I-A football. Which is to nobody's surprise. Would I be shocked if I turned the TV on right now and they said he went someplace else? No. That money is real. And he's from the Texas area. Well, he's not from the Texas area, but he lived in Texas. And so people thought he was going to go to Texas A&M or Houston. Didn't go to either. Sports is a complex, head-scratching, mentally draining business. Because decisions that are made by people in higher positions, officiating in games, players' conduct, you forget sometimes that they're human too. They just have a special skill and know something more than we know in terms of the game. I'm literally shocked that they fired him because, yeah, he brought in the people. Yeah, they're not blocking for him. We don't even know. I mean, the difference between him and Stroud is Stroud's not on his back. He beat Stroud. His only win this year was against Stroud. Scott Van Pelt last night totally dissed the Giants and the Jets. He put up a statistic last night that I'm still laughing at right now. He put up a statistic where he said the Giants and Jets have played 12 games in that stadium this year, and they've only scored 12 touchdowns. They got 18 turnovers in those games. So you imagine going to see the Giants and the Jets play. Their opponents are scoring, but they're not scoring. But they're not going to fire Saleh. They're not going to fire Daboll because the Jets have an excuse this year. Aaron Rodgers is hurt. The Giants have an excuse. Daniel Jones is out for the season. Tyrod's out for the season. So now we're using Tommy DeVito, the Italian stallion, to help lead the team. So they got excuses. Frank Wright wasn't given no excuse. They threw Bryce Young right in the fire. DeMeco Ryans threw Stroud right in the fire. Will Levis got to watch like 5-6 games. Now he's the guy. Anthony Richardson, they threw him right away in the fire, and he broke his arm or shoulder or collarbone and out for the season. Desmond Ridder thrown into fire. He's only 2 years in. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't work. Tua, he was thrown into the fire. A lot of quarterbacks have been thrown into the fire. Josh Allen. Justin Herbert had to watch one game, and then Tyrod got hurt, and Justin Herbert jumped in and was ready to go. But Chargers can't block, save his life. In fact, when I looked in the phone this morning and I saw that the coach was fired, I thought it was Staley. Because they just can't, they stink. I wouldn't be surprised if I turned the TV now and he was fired. I think going forward, teams are going to look at things from a dollar and cents perspective. Coach ain't worth $10 million if he can't win. And the college game, if you can't get me to at least a conference championship, In 5 years, you ain't getting paid. You're done. And if you go backwards and you have a good first year, a good second year, and a bad third year, you're done. Welcome to sports. Wins and losses mean a lot more than you think, and that's why I'm down so much on it. That's why I'm so down on the sports world today. Because in college, kids don't want to play in bowl games because they're thinking about their future. Kids have a mentality that since coaches leave jobs, we could leave schools. In the NFL, players have the attitude that play hard, give all you got, and get paid a lot of money, but we ain't no slave. No one ever said you were slaves, because wins and losses matter. And so teams want you to do things for them. I don't see that slave relationship that players say there is with owners and players. And in basketball, to make them have to play, to say you got to play at least 65 games in order to be whatever. And you look back at that and you say, season's 82 games. The toughest part of the season could be at any point. And you need them to win. Wins and losses save jobs, save careers, keep teams from cutting you, trading you. And if that don't matter to you, why play? Frank Reich will get another job.